Good morning and welcome back to Maximum Lawyer. I am really, really excited about this episode. I apologize for the voice. I don't know what's going on with me. Yesterday, I started having a little bit of a headache, and then this morning, I've got this voice issue. So I'm hoping it's not something serious, but um, I do want to talk about today. Today's an interesting one. It's more of a thought experiment than I think anything else. Well, part of it is. I guess part of it's a thought experiment. Part of it is talking from experience a little bit, but I really want to start by asking the question, like, what if you gave yourself time to think? And what I mean by that is because I've talked about this in the past, um, and I've talked about it whenever with regards to the 12 a year. I used to do this thing where every Monday I set aside 3 hours. It was in the afternoon, and it was just thinking time. Everything was shut off. No cell phone, no computer. It was me and a whiteboard. And there was a lot of power in that. There was there were many ideas that came out of that. And over time, I've given less and less time to thinking. Not that I don't, not that I don't strategize, but not like that. And it really got me what really triggered this thought for me yesterday was I was thinking about there's a video with that came on for NASA, and then it got me thinking about SpaceX, and I bet NASA and SpaceX, and then whatever the Amazon version is, I can't remember the name of that one, but I'd imagine they probably have dedicated teams just to thinking and testing and thinking and testing and thinking and testing. And what if we did the same thing with our firms, right? I mean, and it was interesting whenever I thought about that, it kind of unlocked me a little bit. And it was like, wow, um, think about how much faster we can go. Not that speed is always the thing, but speed is a big component when it comes to growth and dealing with competition and all of that. And so what would happen if your firm with your firm, if you at the helm said, "You know what? I'm gonna set up." Actually, let's just start really basic. Let's just say you set aside the time 3 hours a week just to think. Just to think. I mean, that's a big ask these days, I think. That's a really big ask. I was talking to Gary Falkowitz yesterday, and he was talking about how, like, back in the day, he and I had this really great phone call. He was talking about how back in the day, you know, you'd be able to just you could you could multitask. Everything's like multitasking these days, and, like, but back then, it's like, you could do one thing and didn't feel like you're giving up, 20 other things, but you have so many options for your time these days. And by the way, Gary put it so much better than I'm putting it right now, but you have so many different things you can do these days that, taking time to really do anything is a massive commitment because you're giving up so many other things. And so taking aside 3 hours of your week, that's a pretty big ask of a lot of people. And I completely understand that what I'm asking is a big ask. But let's say you started with that. But then let's say you had a team that all they did was they come up with ideas, they test the ideas, they implement the ideas. It's all they did. And think about how much growth and improvement you would get in your firm. And when I was starting to think about that, I mean, like, okay, because we've been doing something when it comes to our leads, like really dialing in our leads. And so every week we meet about and this has to do with SEO, it has to do with ads, and so we each week we meet, we dial in the ads a little bit more, dial them in a little bit more, and we're starting to see that hockey stick growth is what we're looking for. It's what we're getting, which is great. but that's because we were taking time to focus on it. And but if you take each component, so like that's near the beginning, right, of the whole process for a case. Now think about what if you did that with your sales team, whatever you call your sales team, your intake team. And then, all right, let's okay, well, let's do this with HR. All right. How are we dealing with our people? Like how can we do better? How can we get more performance out of them? Like you're thinking about all of these different things. Like how can we make sure that turnover stays low? How can or maybe you've got a turnover issue. How can we solve for turnover? And you get into cash flow. Okay, we have cash flow issues. How do we solve this cash flow problem? So you're just thinking, right? You're just thinking. Or let's say you go, you are like with personal injury firms. At least with my firm, I look at average fee quite a bit. It's a pretty good indicator. So maybe your average fee is dipping, or maybe your average fee is not growing as much as you would like for it to. Okay, how do we solve for that problem? Average fee, I think, can apply to any firm though. So, or maybe you're an estate planning firm and you think things are taking too long, right? What you're doing is you're solving for all of these issues, and as opposed to what usually happens, we typically deal with the issue as best we can, right? We try to address it the best we can. A lot of times they kind of sit there for a little bit, right? They'll just kinda sit over in the corner broken, maybe that's what it is, maybe it's just kind of limping along, and then one day it completely breaks, and then you're in freaking chaos mode where you're trying to triage the situation, so instead of that, which is just a nightmare scenario, what if, like, you actually were solving you just had a team just solving for these issues? I think it's a really interesting and I'm not by the way, I'm not saying it's reasonable for you to go out and hire a team of people to go out and do this. This is where the thought experiment comes in. I think part of this is I want you to actually set aside time to think. I think that's part of it. I need to do a better job of it, and I'm gonna do a better job of it and set aside more time for this like I used to. But the other part of it is the thought experiment. Okay, because to try to unlock some of those ideas, and if you are in a situation, let's say you are in a financial situation to hire more people to test and to implement, because I'm lucky enough to have a team of tech people that can actually do this stuff. So that's where I'm actually when it comes to the tech part of things, I am we are in that position, which is really, I'm very, very lucky to be in, where we've got these team of people that can take these wild ideas that I have sometimes and go and build them and implement them. I think that's pretty amazing. But that doesn't solve all of our issues. Tech doesn't solve everything. We've got many other things that we're dealing with when it comes to law firms. I mean, you're talking about, ethics issues, you're talking about human issues, you're talking about tech, legal, marketing, everything that you can think of when it comes to running a law firm. So you can't just have a tech team solve all those, right? Maybe what you do is each one of your business units. Okay, so think about each team, right? Think of them as like business units. Maybe they set aside time to think, and maybe they set aside time to test and then implement. Like think about how much improvement you might have on your in your entire firm if each of your business units was actively thinking, testing, implementing, thinking, testing, implementing. Think of how much progress you might have when it comes to that. But this is something that it takes patience. This is something that it takes understanding. As law firm owners, we have to be willing to allow our people to do it. That's one of those things where we have to get over that because we have deadlines, we have emails, we have client calls, we've got trials coming up, we gotta get things out the door, maybe you got a statute of limitations. So doing these things is hard, but maybe all of those things, those deadlines, those emails, those clients, those trials, those statute of limitations coming up, maybe those don't become as big of issues going forward because you're solving for those issues in advance. Another way of putting it is they don't ever become an issue because you're already solving the issue well in advance. It's a different way of looking at it. It's very proactive thinking as opposed to reactive thinking. And when you think about it that way, that is a game changer. Okay. I hate using that term unless it applies. And in that situation, if you are going on offense by proactively setting aside the time to solve for these issues well in advance, that's a game changer. Like, think about how much energy and resources go into all of this whenever you're being reactive as opposed to proactive. That is a massive, massive change in the mindset. Massive change in mindset. Like, I'll give you like reframing. I'll give you a great example. Another reference from my call with Gary Falkowitz yesterday. So, Gary was talking about how he was at this, um, I think it was a conference, is what it was, and he was watching this person speak, and they were asked about sales, and it was this realtor out in New York City. He's got a show, and it's Ryan something. I can't. And Gary told me the name. I can't think of their last name. It's a really famous person. Those of you that are watching or listening, you probably know what I'm talking about. But they said it's not sales. Um, it's solving problems. It's problem solving. And I've heard it said a different way before, but it is so true. So if you were like, let's say you were to set aside some time with your intake slash sales team and you were to work on that. Okay. Let's say you just set aside time to work on that one thing. Okay. How do we reframe this? This is not sales. We're problem solving for people. So what does that look like? And when he said it to me, it really that unlocks some things for me. I'm thinking like, "Oh, so true, so right." Okay, so maybe what we need to do with our team is like talk about what that looks like. So, I'm kind of envisioning. So we get so many calls. We probably turn down 80 to 90% of the people that call. Just that's just the nature of the business. And but what do we do with those 80 to 90%? Like, how do we help them solve their problems? And how does that lead to maybe more referrals to the firm? Or maybe how does that lead to, um, I mean, employee satisfaction, right? Them knowing that they're helping somebody. So I don't feel like I'm trying to convince somebody to sign a piece of paper. I'm trying to find the best solution for this person, no matter who they are. That's gonna bring a pretty high level of job satisfaction as opposed to what, you might get whenever the person is just trying to sell somebody. Completely different, but you don't solve for those issues unless you set aside the time to think about it, right? I think that this is, it's a really, really big deal, okay? So I wonder, like, when was the last time you scheduled time to think about anything for your firm? So I mean, I'm talking about you actually setting aside the time. You say, "Hey, um, I wanna set aside the time to think about intake, and I'm gonna do it next Tuesday at 3 PM for 2 hours." Okay? To me, that'd be the worst time of day to do it probably 'cause by then, I've already kinda worn myself out, so I'd probably want, like, a morning session, but either way, whatever works best for you. Maybe it's a nighttime thing where you go into your basement, you pull out the whiteboard or, just a notepad and you start writing, right? You just start trying to think through the issues. But don't skip a step. I wanna say, if you do something like that, and I'm not saying you should do this in a team or not do it in a team, but if you do it individually, a big issue I see with people is it's all in their head or on their notepad, and they never communicate to the team. So if you do some of that, make sure you condense it down and then pass it on to your team. Okay. I think that that is a failure in leadership if you do it, that if you don't do that. Okay. So make sure you do that. But Okay, so I wanna get back to the SpaceX thing and the NASA thing, and, like, how they treat problems, and, so pretty much everything that you deal with when it comes to NASA and, space and SpaceX is it's an engineering puzzle, okay? It's not philosophical. It's it's very much, um, by the numbers. They're looking at everything from an engineering component. So it does make me wonder, like, all right, so if we have the data, many of us have the data in our systems. We just have not found a way to unlock it, or we don't know what to do with it. But what if you were to, and this, I'm just giving you this as an alternative way of thinking about it for those of you that think in this manner. Okay, maybe you're not like the touchy-feely type where it's all frou-frou and, maybe you're not just, you're the type that says, "Oh, therapy's for yeah, I'm too tough for therapy or counseling," that kind of stuff, right? Let's say you're just that type and you want more of like the crunching the numbers and all that. View this as an engineering problem, okay? Whatever the issue is, view it as an engineering problem, okay? Look at the numbers, look at the data, whatever the data shows you, analyze it, and try to solve it that way. I think having, different ways of viewing it is helpful for different people because we're not all the same. We're all different. We approach things differently. There's no one way to run a successful law firm. There are many ways of running a successful law firm, and there are many ways of running an unsuccessful law firm. There are certainly some trends and some things that are consistent, common trends, themes when it comes to firms that run successful law firms. There's also very common themes and trends for firms that run unsuccessful law firms. I'd be willing to bet that the a common theme, um, or I would be willing to bet that firms that set aside time to think and problem solve in advance are probably among the elite firms, is my guess. And that's something that, I'd love to figure out. I'd love to hear from you. If anybody does set aside this time and you've had success in your firm, I'd love to hear from you because shoot me a text because I would love the cell phone numbers in the show notes. Shoot me a text. I'd love to hear from you because I want to know what you do. I think it's very interesting because I think that'd be very helpful. And maybe if you got something really interesting to talk about, we can have you on the show and talk about it because setting aside that time to think. I can only imagine it would lead to some of the most elite firms there are. And what happens is many of us probably do things like this early on, like I've done in the past, and we just because get so busy and we've got so much going on that we just stop doing it. We don't prioritize it. But I think the reality is that if you have these companies like SpaceX, like, they don't rely on accidental insights. They don't. This is all the the engineering is engineered, like, the thinking is engineered, and they see these massive gains in growth, and they solve these almost impossible problems. That's not by accident. This is not by accident. It's something that they have done because they've set aside the time to do it. There's intentionality in it. And if we can do the same thing with our firms, or if they can do that with SpaceX, we can do the same thing with our firms. We're not trying to get to Mars. Okay. We're not. But that doesn't mean we don't face big issues that we have to solve. We all have the intake bottlenecks and case delays, and there's some volatility sometimes with our employees. Whether it doesn't matter if you're a small team or a giant team, it really doesn't matter. We all have these issues that we have to solve. And sometimes if we just get a notebook, go sit in a quiet room for a few hours, we can solve some of those issues, especially if we're doing it on a consistent basis. Like, just imagine if you had just 2 uninterrupted hours to solve just one problem. Let's say you just walked in there and said, "Hey, I gotta solve for this one problem." I mean, having 2 hours of complete uninterrupted time, no phone, no computer, just a notepad, you and a notepad or you and a whiteboard. Just think how many problems you could solve. Just what if you just solved one problem a week? Pretty good. Pretty good. 52 problems a year. Pretty good. It's not too bad. I think it's a pretty good result, especially you as the leader. I think that's pretty good. So, something to think about. Just remember to test. Okay. So, a big part of this is that the thinking's one part of it. That's theoretical. There's the testing part of this. Okay. So you're not thinking forever about one issue. You're thinking, testing, thinking, testing, because you have to at some point implement. You got to launch. So that's the part that I want to make sure I emphasize too is make sure you go and you launch it. Okay. Or I mean, if maybe you test, you realize this is a bad idea and you abandon it. So you really got to get to that point where you're testing, you're thinking, you're testing, and then either you're gonna go back to thinking about it a little bit, testing again, and then you're either gonna have to launch, either ship it or abandon it at some point. That's what you gotta do. So ship or abandon. Put some sort of a time limit on yourself. Okay. Um, that part I think is really, really important. So, all right. Thanks for listening to me sort of think out loud. This is one of these episodes I didn't script. This is one where I wanted to just kind of think about it. I had my thoughts out as to how I wanted to approach some of these things, but um, it's one of those things that I didn't fully script this one out. I didn't fully outline this one out. I just wanted to kind of get some thoughts out. I thought this was an interesting mental exercise to go through, but I think I'm on the right track when it comes to this. I think I'm on the right track when it comes to setting aside the time. It's gotten me thinking a lot about what I've done in the past when it comes to setting aside the time to think. And so test it out. Let me know what you think. Think, test, and implement, and let me know how it goes. But just want to remind everyone. So we do have the Phoenix Mastermind and Wellness Workshop in a couple weeks. I mean, this is what I'm most excited about up to this point. I think really, really excited. I just love the Phoenix area. We usually go to Scottsdale, but we're actually having it in Phoenix this year. We found a different venue that we're going to have it at, so we're going to test. We're going to test that out. That's one of the things we're going to do, and this one's gonna be really cool. I mean, we got a hike included. We're gonna be doing yoga. There's all this stuff because running a law firm, as you know, it is not just number crunching and handling cases. It is all aspects of your life, right? All facets of your life. They're all tied together. Especially when you're running a law firm. You're the head of a law firm. It's all tied together. Parenting is wrapped into this. You have maybe you have a fight with your spouse and you go to work and that affects everything else that day. Like there is so much into it when it comes to running a firm. And so I'm really excited about this one. This is one where we're testing it. We've never done one like this. We're gonna see how it goes. I'm very excited about though. We're designing things that we want to do. And I'm hoping that if it's something that if we want to do it, you're going to probably want to do it. So that's why we're doing it that way. So, and then, so if you're interested in that, go to maxlawevents.com. I mean, you don't have much time left, but maxlawevents.com, check it out. I'm super excited. I can't wait to go. It's going to feel like a vacation, I think, to me. So super excited, even though those weeks are really busy for me, it's gonna feel like a vacation because it's just beautiful out there. But and then check out Becca's List, beccaslist.co. That we've put a lot of time and effort into that, and that's something that it's free for attorneys. It's designed to help us share the love when it comes to which vendors are good, which vendors are bad, here's who to look out for, here's who you should really hire for, you name it. So that's what it's for. But beccaslist.co. Uh, have a wonderful week, everybody. That's all I have. And we will be seeing you. See you, buddy.